48 MEPs, 70 members of the international media community here in Druids Glen in County Wicklow for 2 days at the EPP Group Bureau meeting. They're here to discuss the impact of Brexit on Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, and with Tony Blair's visit today, the impact on the UK. I'm here because I'm interested in what role does social media play in political communications?
JSB Talks Digital.
Just had a very interesting dialogue with the former Prime Minister of Great Britain, Tony Blair, in the EPP Bureau meeting here in Wicklow in Ireland. The idea was to have a better understanding about the next month, about what we see in the future. And from our point of view, from the EPP point of view, the most important point is, first of all, that European Union is united. We have a clear position on what we want to achieve, certainty for the people. We have to clarify the costs of all the Brexit points, and we have to clarify the Northern Ireland question, which is a decisive and even an historical question. I want to underline that Tony Blair was the Prime Minister who achieved and signed finally the Good Friday Agreement, and that's why this is for us a very decisive point. Second point I want to make is that the European Union is united, the 27, and we see that the whole exercise cannot be a win-win situation. So what we hear from London is that finally we should try to do a win-win situation from our point of view, from a European People's Party point of view, and the Parliament in Strasbourg must give the consent at the end to this negotiations, to this final outcome. From our point of view, we see no chance for a win-win situation. It will create damage. Sorry to say this, but that's the reality. We try to do it in a constructive approach, but at the end it will be a mistake, and this is a mistake, to go out of the European Union, and that is what the British people will experience during the next years. That's from my point, and I invite Tony Blair to say a few words as well.
Thank you very much, and I was very pleased to be invited here to the EPP meeting, because obviously it's the largest group in the European Parliament. As one of the architects of the Good Friday Agreement, which brought into being the peace process in Northern Ireland, I'm extremely anxious to make sure that Brexit does not impair that agreement, that we continue to have the closest possible relationship between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. There are really important and difficult challenges in this. At the moment, we have a common travel area where people can travel freely between south and north, north and south, on the island of Ireland. This is vital to maintain. In addition, the open border between the north and south in terms of trade, has done an immense amount for UK-Irish trade and commercial relationships. And obviously it's important that, though there will be difficult challenges in relation to this, that we again safeguard as much of that as possible and minimise any potential damage. I did explain to the EPP that I think whatever disagreements I have with the British government over Brexit more generally, I think there is a real consensus across the British political system that we must do everything we possibly can to keep the present situation between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, south and north, as similar to what we have at the moment as we possibly can, and do all we can to minimise any potential disruption. This is of vital importance for the economic relationships, but also for the political relationships. So it was enormously beneficial to be able to talk to the EPP and to speak to them about that, and of course, obviously, broader questions about Europe. But I know from what the Taoiseach said yesterday, what Michel Barnier said yesterday also, and in a sense my presence here today is to say I think there is a really common desire, whatever other issues there are in relation to Brexit, to make Northern Ireland a special case and make sure that we do everything we possibly can to protect the Good Friday Agreement, the peace process, and to protect that strong relationship between the Republic of Ireland and the UK going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
This month, a BBC Panorama documentary found that Facebook had a significant impact on the outcome of the US presidential elections and also the Brexit referendum. We've heard from Tony Blair, we've heard from Michel Barnier about how people must now deal with Brexit and what Brexit might look like for Ireland and for the UK. Facebook, in an unusual turn of events, has actually taken out print ads in the mainstream UK newspapers. Why? They want to teach people about fake news. They've shared 10 top tips on how Facebook users should identify fake news because, as we know, the rise of echo chambers was one of the big trends in social media in 2016. The rise of populist parties, the rise of negative campaigning. And I think from the meeting over the last 2 days here in Wicklow, people are beginning to think about how can social media now educate people on the impact of Brexit. A US study in 2012 found that 38% of people actually share political messages on their Facebook pages and on other social networks. It's no surprise then that politicians, who probably like vanity metrics, are interested in social media. I've used the opportunity over the last 2 days to talk to a few MEPs about how they use social media and how it's positively or negatively impacting their political communications. Sean Kelly, there's been lots of conversations over the last 2 days about the impact of Brexit on the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and indeed today on the impact of the UK when we heard from Tony Blair. But my particular interest is that, how much does social media and social commentary play a role in political communications? And do you find social media a challenge for you, even in your own role as an MEP?
Well, I think there's no doubt about it. Social media is becoming more and more important in communicating, and especially for young people. And as they grow up, more and more population are going to be engaging on it. It's a wonderful way to communicate instantly, to get ideas going, to ask for a retweet if you want something extra done, and all that is wonderful. The only downside of it I see at the moment is that people are inclined to follow people of the same views themselves, and they can also gang up on individuals. There can be negative side to it. So I think it needs to be a little more transparent, and I'm not too sure how anonymous people should be allowed to be, especially if they're being highly critical and abusive of maybe people in public eye, either politicians or business people or artists or whatever. So I think that needs to be addressed. But apart from that, it's a great way to communicate and it keeps us all happy. If we didn't have our iPhone now, I think we'd be very, very much lost all the time and our hands would be moving all over the place.
Do you enjoy social media yourself? Do you find it useful?
I love it.
Yeah.
It actually fills all the gaps, and trying to keep up with it is probably the most difficult thing, because sometimes it can be addictive. You sit down and time is going by, but there's always something new coming up, and you keep watching it, and then you might respond. So you have to learn to be disciplined in terms of time management, otherwise it could consume you.
So we've got an election coming down the line in 2019. Do you think that social media will replace the shoe leather and the knocking on the doors?
It probably won't replace it, but in some respects it might be more effective, because I have to ask myself, again, you go from door to door, what percentage of the voting population do you reach? Every other politician is doing the same. So does it make a huge impact, especially in European elections, how people vote? I'm not too sure. At local elections it's different, because everything local, people want to know the local individual and they expect him or her to call. But again, at at European level, I think it's slightly different perspective, and that will have to be reassessed to get the best possible tool to communicate. But definitely social media is going to play a bigger and bigger role in all elections in the future. And the bigger the voting population, obviously, the more effect social media will have.
Mairead McGuinness, MEP, you're also First Vice President of the EU Parliament and very active on social media as well. How much of a role do you think social media plays in the current digital age when it comes to politics?
Well, we can't ignore it and we have to be part of it. It is important, and it's certainly there are different audiences for different forms of social media. But there are downsides as well, because it's an extra dimension to the job. In my view, it is only one part of how I communicate. The key for politicians is to talk to people directly and meet them directly. You cannot beat the physical hand-to-hand handshake, the hug, the eyeballing your citizens. They deserve that we go to the constituency and talk to them. Social media helps in the bridging of that, but really you cannot live by social media alone. On the other hand, you cannot live without it.
Does it help bridge the gap, given that you're based in Brussels and Strasbourg a lot and not always in the constituency?
I think too much is made of that, because I think the word Brussels has a bad connotation. I just happen to do my job in that particular place, but my constituency is Ireland, Midlands North West, 15 counties. I live in Ireland, I breathe Irish air, I care about my constituency and my constituents, and I'm about as much as I can be for one person in that big area. So yes, it helps. So does radio, vital. So do newspapers, really important, photographs. But let's really make this point that people vote for people, not social media gurus. They want to see us, feel us, hear us, know what we think, know what we look like, know how we feel and how they feel. So it's just another part of how we talk and how we communicate. But I wouldn't disband with the past and how we've done our business in the past. And maybe we need to concentrate more on that.
And so where can people find you on social media?
Well, on Twitter, Mairead MacG MEP, on Instagram I think it's the same, and on Facebook as well. But they can also text, they can even write letters. And I have to say, those who write letters to us are very precious. They're few, but it's really nice to get a letter. And actually sometimes we get nice thank you letters, which is really, really nice. So don't dismiss the stamp and the envelope and the phone call and all of those things. In a way, it was easier when there was only a few lines of communication or methodologies. Today there's so many. You wonder, are there too many?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Manfred Weber, you're the chairperson of the EPP group and you're an avid user of social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. How do you think political communications has changed in the digital age with social media?
Well, fundamentally, that's obvious. There is a direct communication today possible. There is no journalist, nobody in between the politician and the citizens. That is a big chance, but although a challenge for all of us. Because you also have nobody anymore who is really checking facts, for example. You believe or you don't believe, nobody is checking anymore. That is normally the job of journalists. So we have to see the positive things and the negative things. For me it's great because people are interested in what we are doing, what I'm doing, and it's good to communicate.
And do you think that the social networks have a role to play? We're here in Ireland. Most of the main social networks have their European headquarters in our capital, in Dublin. Only this week, Facebook have launched a series of print newspaper ads in the UK to advise people how to check against fake news on Facebook. And this is ahead of the upcoming UK elections. So from an EU perspective and the power that the EU institutions have, do you think that the social networks have a bigger role to play to kind of counteract fake news?
I'm very happy about these initiatives to take over responsibilities. These companies are earning a lot of money. They are very powerful, frankly speaking, in a globalized world. And that means, on the other hand, when you are powerful, you have responsibility. That is always combined in our thinking of our society. That's why it's good when they are doing this. On the other hand, there is always the state. So we as society who are defining the rules. It's not a company who is defining the rules, it is we as state. So for example, the question of privacy in the digital world, what I want to see publicly, what I want to have the right, whether I want to have the right to delete some of the statements I did in the previous time, whether I want to delete some of the photos and so on in the global world, in the global internet. That is what our principal rights in our thinking as Europeans. And therefore you need a strong state. Therefore you need the European Union, because only we together as 500 million consumers with our market power which we have can really settle global standards in this globalized internet world. And that's why one thing is the engagement of the companies. I respect this and I support this, but the other thing is that not the companies are doing the rules. We as society, we as citizens are defining the rules under which they are doing their business.
Okay, so where can we find you on social media?
Well, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, so a lot of channels are open, and hopefully a lot of people are interested in. And I'm also looking for advice to make it more attractive. So we all learn with how we communicate, how we do this, and we want to do this together in a respectful way.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me on JSB Talks Digital, and I'd be happy at any stage to give you some advice on how to make your social better, but I think you're doing a great job.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you. As the mainstream media pack up and file the reports for TV, for radio and for print, I'm left here thinking, how is the political narrative going to develop over the next 2 years as we head into the 2019 European elections? There is absolutely no doubt that politicians have warmed to social media. They understand the benefits, but I actually wonder, do they actually understand the power and the opportunity that it presents to kill fake news and maybe to turn fans into voters? I will continue my work with the EPP group in Brussels on that very subject, and I will also continue to investigate the role of social media in political communications.
JSB Talks Digital.
Give me a like, subscribe, and get JSB Talks Digital, the vlog, every Monday morning in your inbox. And please do share with your friends. They'd really appreciate it.